Hey, what the hell's going on? How are you? It's me, Nick Digilio. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. And please check out my Patreon page. Maybe you're seeing this video on my Patreon page as well. And that's a great way to support what I do. I have two podcasts that I host at Radio Misfits Podcast Network. You can check them out at radiomisfits.com. Or they're live streaming on our 24/7 podcast streaming service, like a radio station. RadioMisfits.live. RadioMisfits.live. You can hear my podcast, the Nick D Podcast, daily at 3 p.m. Central. And you can hear my Saturday Night Live podcast. That show hasn't been funny in years. It is, by the way. You can hear that daily at 9 a.m. And it's loaded with great unheard music by unsigned bands and incredible episodes of great podcasts. So check out our streaming service 24/7 at RadioMisfits.live. And check out my podcasts. The Nick D Podcast, which is an entertainment pop culture review podcast, lifestyle comedy podcast. And the other one is That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years, an SNL podcast dedicated to the greatest sketch comedy show of all time, where I do a deep dive into episodes and seasons and sketches, and I have cast members on, writers on, and I play back a lot of memory stuff, and it's a great podcast. You should check it out if you like SNL. All that stuff is free. I appear on The Steve Cochran Show on Fridays on WLS AM 890, the Big 89, right here in Chicago. On the Steve Cochran Show, you can hear me on Friday mornings, where I do movie reviews and talk about pop culture and talk about my podcasts and all kinds of cool stuff. That's all free, so you should donate to my Patreon page right now. Please do. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Patreon.com/NickDShow. So, got all that stuff out of the way. As you know, I am a movie reviewer. I've been reviewing movies professionally for like 30-something, years. I do it on my podcast, I do it on WLS, I do it for videos, and I write about them, and I've been doing it for many years in print and on radio and all kinds of stuff. So, I am a professional movie critic, so I get to see the movies ahead of time, and this is a video where I will be reviewing a new movie. And it's the big one over the next, it opens on June 16th, so it opens next week. I saw it last night. I'm fresh from seeing it. I didn't write anything down, I didn't take any notes, I'm just going to spew forth what I think of it. If you are a regular listener to my podcast, if you know me from years back, if you watch these videos, then you know that for the most part, I think comic book movies suck ass. I think they're bullshit for the most part. There are some that I really like. There are some that I love, just a few. But the majority of them are horse shit movies that exist only to suck people's money dry. And they don't have heart, they don't have soul. I agree with Scorsese and I agree with Coppola on a lot of these things where they're not really movies, they're not really cinema, they're machines designed exclusively to suck the money from suckers and marks from seeing these stupid movies. They don't care about plot development, they're not really cinematic, they're all special effects. Some of them, are better than others. Like the new Spider-Man animated movie, I don't count that among, the live-action bullshit Marvel and DC universe shit. The Spider-Man, Spider-Verse movies, those two movies are fucking great, and they're really interesting, and they actually make fun of the whole multiverse thing. They're satires of that. They don't take advantage of it. And they're three-dimensional, they're beautifully done, and technically they're magnificent in terms of the style, in terms of the way they're put together. They're beautifully directed, they're wonderfully written, and the animation and the technical aspects of it are purely cinematic and great. So the Spider-Verse movies, they're in another realm. And there are other great comic book movies in the past that I really like. Logan is one of my favorite, maybe my favorite comic book movie of all time, but it doesn't really fall under the category of all of these stupid Avenger, knockoff, MCU, DCU bullshit, where they knock off characters at a whim and go, oh my God, we killed the character, but then we'll bring him back, 2 years later, or we'll give him, a Disney Plus series, even though he's dead, and their excuse is, well, we're bringing these people back, or we're changing this, or we can bring this person in, or that person in, and this person can make a cameo, because we exist in different universes. It's a multiverse, where we can bring these back, and blah, blah, blah. Fuck off with your multiverse. It exists in order to tease people, to make sure that they come and see the next movie. There's nothing cinematic, there's nothing intelligent about it. It is as cold and calculated a way to get money out of people's wallets as you could possibly fucking imagine. And you can take your little Marvel universe and your multiverse and stick it up your ass. And you can take your little DC multiverse and stick it up your ass. I don't follow any of this shit. I don't care about it. Every time I walk into one of these goddamn movies, within 10 minutes, I don't know what the fuck's going on, and I don't care. I'm not going to go back and rewatch this bullshit. I'm not going to, well, you don't understand, because in this, in Captain America Civil War Village, this happened, and Loki pulled a button, and then somebody jerked off onto a tree, and that tree grew into this universe, and that's why we can bring back all these dead people and do all these crazy cameos from other movies and blah, blah, blah. No. You're doing that because you want people to come and see the movie. They are as cold and calculated, money-grubbing bullshit movies as humanly possible. And as in the invention of cinema, nothing has been more fucking cold and calculated than these stupid-ass multiverse comic book movies. And you're all marks. That's it. They consider you a mark. They don't give a fuck about story or three-dimensional characters. They care that you come in and pay the $18 to see the movie and spend a bunch of money on popcorn and shit, and then come back in 2 months to see the next stupid movie that will continually, that's why you wait till the end credits to see what's going to happen next. Oh my God. You don't care about what you're watching. You sit there for 2.5 hours watching a bunch of noise and stupid, insulting bullshit so that you go see the ending and go, well, I got to go back next month and see the new 2.5 hour nothing but noise and idiocy so that I can see the next movie, and on and on and on and on and on until your bank account is half gone because you've seen a bunch of fucking bullshit tricks, not movies. Well, the latest example of that, and it's one of the worst examples, is The Flash. This is the latest from DC. Now, seriously, sometimes I don't know what the fuck DC or Marvel is, and I don't fucking care. It's not possible for me to care less the differences between DC and, but they're the same bullshit, and I don't care. So The Flash is the latest one, and this Ezra Miller is in it, and he's been a controversial actor because he's had all these allegations against him, and he had some mental illness problems, little substance abuse problems. He did some questionable shit with minors, and there was some really weird, violent, crazy behavior. He's had a bad couple of years, and it's questionable whether, they've had a bad couple of years, and they are filled with controversy, and they've had to deal with a lot of court issues and a lot of allegations and a lot of, they've been thrown in jail, and they've been sued, and they've had things settled out of court in order to avoid all the controversy because there's underage people involved and violence and weird activities and whatever. So Ezra Miller, they've had some very serious shit attached to them. And as a result, it's kind of heaped into the way people are looking at this movie. And the new movie is The Flash, and it's a solo movie that I guess this character's been in a bunch of these movies. I don't fucking know. But The Flash is in the DC universe. He's part of the Justice League. So he knows Superman, and he knows Batman, and he knows Wonder Woman, and dipshit Aquaman, and all these fucking morons. And he's he's a kid, and he can run fast. So he can run real fast. Exciting. So this is his solo movie, but again, it's got all these other dumbass characters from these DC bullshit movies in it. And here's the plot. And by the way, the guy who directed It and It Chapter 2. It Chapter 2, not very good. It, terrific movie. That is Andy Muschietti is the director of this movie. But here's the plot. Worlds collide when the Flash uses his superpowers to travel back to time, change the events of the past. However, when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, he becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod has returned, threatening annihilation. With no other superheroes to turn to, the Flash looks to coax a very different Batman out of retirement and rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian, albeit not the one he's looking for. Okay. So what happens is the Flash, this dickhead, goes back in time to save his mom because his mom gets killed, his dad gets framed for her murder and is thrown in jail. And so he decides, well, I'm going to go back and get this can of tomato sauce and put it in my mom's cart because she would have lived had dad not gone to the store to get it, whatever. Anyway, he fucks with time, and that alters the entire universe. And at one point, he goes back in time a little bit too early, and he meets the younger version of himself, the 18-year-old version of himself. And so there is the older, more knowledgeable, and yet, albeit, one of these, he's also just as weird as the younger version is. So the older version meets the 18-year-old version of him, and tells him that at some point in the future, he's going to be a superhero, he's going to be the Flash, and decides to manufacture these superpowers, create this, recreate this time, go back in time when he becomes the Flash. And then you got two guys who are now Flashes, and they're running around and he's fucked up the entire timeline of the universe, and all these other characters are dead, and blah, blah, blah. So it's a time travel movie that uses every used fucking cliche that's been in 8 million better time travel movies. And it's about, there are now 2 Flashes, so you get 2 Ezra Millers being annoying as fuck. Not just one being super weird and super annoying and super ticky and just very mannered. He's a very mannered, over-the-top, mugging, kind of over-the-top actor. I liked him in, there's something, we need to talk about Kevin, because he played a fucking weirdo in it. And I liked it. And I liked him in Perks of, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I liked him in that. But outside of that, never liked him. Don't give a shit about what he does personally. If they are a creep, then they are a creep. And they suck in this movie. They suck. And not only are there 1, but there's 2. And I won't get into what else happens. Anyway, so the Flash, the 2 Flashes need help to get the universe back in order. Zod, who Michael Shannon shows up, clearly it was shot like he was there for a day, and they superimposed his stupid ass onto something. Michael just clearly showed up for like 2 days. Perhaps he did it in front of a green screen at Red Orchid, or in a garage in Chicago. You can't even tell. So he's in it. He returns to Zod. The world has been. They got to save the world. So they find a Batman. They go back in time. They find a Batman. But this Batman is from the alternate universe. See, again, you got your multiverses and your universes mixing up. Isn't that clever? No, it's fucking not. It's stupid. So the Batman that they bring in here, even though they established that the Batman in the normal timeline is Ben Affleck, who again is a terrible Batman, and clearly his scenes in this movie, he's in it briefly, but his scenes in this movie, he clearly does not want to be there. It's like, yes, I will say my stupid lines in this stupid fucking Flash movie, blah, blah, blah. So, but when they go back in time, Michael Keaton is the Batman. I'm not spoiling anything because he's in the trailers and he's in the commercials. That's one of the reasons why they're trying to get you to see this movie, is to bring you back to see Michael Keaton. And Michael Keaton is now, historically, considered a great Batman. I remember when the first movie came out and there were petitions against the movie and people were bitching about him. But now, of course, he's one of the most beloved Batman. So he starred in Batman and Batman Returns, both directed by Tim Burton. So they bring back that Batman is Michael Keaton. He's old. He doesn't want to do it anymore. But they all team up and they're going to stop Zod. And then they think Superman is being held prisoner by him, but it's not. It's another Kryptonian, and it's Supergirl or some shit. So they bring out Supergirl, and then Supergirl joins them, and they're going to stop Zod and get the world back into its regular, universe. The timelines have to be fixed, so they got to go back in time and forward and back and blah, 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 blah. And it's a bunch of fucking horse shit, okay? Not only is it every stupid comic book multiverse cliche all piled into one, but it's also every stupid used up time travel, let's not fuck with the butterfly effect, blah, blah, blah. Every used up time travel cliche that's already tired, and it makes it even more tired. Not only is it that, not only is it led by a lead who is annoying and ticky and weird, and not only there are 2 of them, 2 of these Flash idiots running around, and so you got Michael Keaton, and everybody's like, oh, it's Michael Keaton, it's great. So instead of Michael Keaton, just Michael Keaton, basically, you got to do more than have Michael Keaton return, show us the old, Batcave, and have him put on the old uniform and then say a couple of lines. So he says a couple of lines that we all know from the other Batman movies, and that's supposed to be enough. Let me tell you something right now. When you're watching this stupid-ass movie and Michael Keaton is doing the action stuff, Michael Keaton is being Batman, outside of just recycling these tired, cliched lines, which don't fucking work and are there specifically to make the audience cheer. There's even a break, a pause, after he says one line so that it's built in that they know the audience is going to cheer. It's fucking stupid. But I'm telling you right now, all you motherfuckers who bitch about Tim Burton, Tim Burton's a terrible director, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something. While you're watching this stupid-ass movie, okay, and you're seeing Michael Keaton wasting his fucking time on this nonsense and repeating a couple of well-known iconic lines boringly, you're going to long for Tim Burton. When you see the scenes and the action scenes and the stuff that Michael Keaton does in this movie, it's laughably bad, filled with horrible CGI, ridiculous animation. It's horribly edited, terribly choreographed. You are going to, all you people who bitch about how bad Tim Burton is or how bad he's become and how annoying his movies are, you're going to be like, oh my God, I wish Tim Burton were directing this. Even people who hate Tim Burton are going to be like, yeah, there's Michael Keaton, but man, this really sucks. You know why? Because Tim Burton isn't involved. And then you got other cameos, and then there's a whole shit ton of weird cameos from different universes And then ultimately what it is this movie is a carbon copy of that Spider-Man, the last Spider-Man movie, Far From Home or Go Home or whatever the fuck it was called, when Tobey Maguire and what's his name, Andrew Garfield showed up, and then they had cameos from all the other villains, and like hundreds of other time holes opened up, and people showed up from other movies and other universes, and the audience would go, ah, and all this meta bullshit where it doesn't require anybody to write a good script. All you got to do is remind everybody of something. Like, oh, it's meta. Here's something from another movie. That's enough. There's no writing involved. This movie becomes a carbon copy of that stupid Spider-Man movie, which means it's a carbon copy of a really shitty movie, but since it's a carbon copy, it's even worse than the shitty Spider-Man movie. So in addition to being a carbon copy of it, it's fucking worse. So everything that happens in that stupid fucking Spider-Man movie where they bring in different Spider-Men and different villains from all TV shows and movies and all kinds of stuff. Oh, isn't that great? You're reminding us of all the other Flashes and all the other Supermen and all the other Batmen, and that's what happens in this movie. You'll be reminded and shown a million cameos from a million different fucking universes and TV shows and comic books and movies and all the movies and all that shit. Oh, it's so exciting, it's horseshit. It's lazy screenwriting, and it exists in order to take the money out of your fucking wallets. This, again, is another prime example of why these fucking comic book movies suck. They are money-grubbing, cold, callous, shitty exercises in bad special effects, horrible CGI. They're not cinematic. They are like bad theme park rides that exists only to take your money. And this new Flash movie is one of the fucking worst examples of dipshit movies, comic book movies that suck. Take your little multiverse and stick it up your ass. The audience I saw it with seemed to like some of it and react to some of it. I was sitting with a couple of people who are comic book fans, and they were like, not very good. And even comic book fans were like, I'm not a comic book fan, therefore I'm smart, and I hated this fucking movie. So, there's your little Flash movie. It's out on the 16th. Don't fucking bother to see it. But of course, you're not going to listen to me. And again, I was talking with a friend of mine after the movie about how it always seems like DC, and I don't follow any of this shit because it's stupid, but it always seems to me, as someone who has to see these movies because that's my job, otherwise I wouldn't see this shit. Trust me, I fucking wouldn't. But I always think that DC is like 2 or 3 steps behind Marvel. And I don't know, just the feeling I get, because this movie is a carbon copy of the Spider-Man movie that came out over 2 years ago. It's the same shit, it's the same tricks, it's the same cameos and the same, recreations and bringing people back from other movies, and it's all that bullshit that they did in the stupid Spider-Man movie, only they're doing it a couple of years later. And that just seems to be a pattern, I guess, in the DC movies. And if I remember correctly, I don't think I've liked the DC movie. And you know what movie's overrated when you go back and watch it? Motherfucking Wonder Woman is an overrated movie. It's an overrated movie. And the second one, the 1984 one, is shit. But the first Wonder Woman movie with the Cat Gadot, who is not good. I mean, she was good in Wonder Woman. I still like her in Wonder Woman. Everything else she's done, she sucks in. She's fucking terrible. You go back and watch Wonder Woman again. I tried to watch it like about 2 months ago, and I had it on cable. I couldn't get through 15 minutes of it without going, fuck this. So yeah, another bad DC movie. Yeah. So, anyway, if you like the comic book movies, you're probably already saying, I don't care what you say, and that's cool. I'm glad that you're blowing all your money on this fucking calculated shit, because you know what? If you're happy with it, they're going to continue. All of this shit is going to continue until everybody has no money, and they've taken every dime that you fucking marks have. So, The Flash, the shit.